Welcome back. Something a bit different for a Tuesday night. Climate and energy have been big news topics, not just this week, but it seems every week in recent years. And I want to get the opinion of some key experts. To bring you all the facts, not the hyperbole, is going to be Dr. Ian Plimer, Professor Ian Plimer, who is a geologist, and biologist Jennifer Marohasy. Jennifer, Ian, thank you so much for joining me. Let's start with the humbling of Climate Change Minister Chris Bowen this week. I spoke about it on last night's program, about how he was brutally fact-checked after a video on nuclear energy he posted on social media over the weekend was shown to be fake news. And then one of Australia's leading nuclear leaders, the man who ran Australia's sole nuclear reactor at Lucas Heights for more than a decade, hit out at Bowen and said he was gravely concerned by the video and the minister's attitude. Ian, I'll start with you. What do you make of all this?
Well, I think it's the normal BS that we get from Chris Bowen. I don't think he understands the basics. Anyone who's ever had cancer could not possibly be anti-nuclear because we create special chemicals in our one and only nuclear reactor for cancer patients. Anyone who's concerned about a fire in their house is using equipment in the fire alarms that gives out radiation. Anyone that lives in a brick house is living in a house that gives out more radiation than elsewhere. Anyone like Chris Bowen, who flits around the world in aeroplanes, is getting far more radiation by being in the sky. So he really doesn't cut the mustard. He doesn't know very much. He's not too bright. And unfortunately, I think he's making a fool of himself far too often. Now, maybe it's a blessing in disguise, because I suspect that Chris Bowen will be the one that will bring down the Labor government.
Now, the Daily Telegraph did a great job in the paper today. They portrayed Chris Bowen as Homer Simpson after Senator Holly Hughes accused Bowen of getting his facts about nuclear energy from The Simpsons. But Jennifer, we know first world nations, we know countries like France, Sweden rely on nuclear energy. So why is there such hostility towards nuclear energy from the likes of Chris Bowen and others from the left when it's a clean source of energy?
Yeah, I understand Emmanuel Macron and his wife, they use nuclear energy. They use nuclear energy in France. My understanding is certainly we have exported a lot of Australian uranium to France. They produce energy there. I don't know if it's still the case, but back 10 years ago, we actually took French nuclear waste. It was exported back here to Australia. So we produce it. We take back the waste sometimes, we have in the past, but we can't use it ourselves. I don't understand. So we produce the uranium, export it overseas to countries like France, take back the waste, but we're not allowed to use it here ourselves.
That makes sense. So we should be having some of the cheapest energy in the world, given the natural resources we have. But we've got some of the most expensive. That's great for us. Now to some hyperbole, and where better to get it than The Guardian, which reports climate change could lead to more pirate attacks, naturally. See if you can stay with the logic here. They report that warmer seas mean less fish, which apparently means more pirate attacks. Ian, will you be staying off the high seas with this disturbing development?
Well, that's contrary to the data. There's something I saw in the literature a couple of weeks ago showing that since the 1850s, and we've been warming very slightly since the 1850s, we've had a decrease in pirate attacks. So this idea from The Guardian is contrary to the data. Why should we be surprised? It's The Guardian after all.
Now, Australia's Green Bank, the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, has come out today saying we are well behind the pace to hit the government's target of 82% renewables in the power grid by 2030. It says we need to build a major wind farm each month until the end of the decade to hit the goal. Jennifer, 82% by 2030, is that possible or even desirable?
It's all prefaced on the idea that we have warming sea temperatures, that we have runaway global warming. But I actually think there needs to not only be an audit of whether it is possible to reach those targets, but why? Why do we want to transition to solar and wind? Is it because some people have invested in these energy types, or is it because we really do have a problem with temperature? I've got major problems with how the Bureau's actually reporting on temperature change, because when I look at the unhomogenised observational data, we don't have a problem with runaway global warming. So why do we need to transition to solar and wind, and how much carbon dioxide is it going to save us, and how much is that actually going to reduce temperatures? I think they're the sort of basic questions that aren't being answered.
They're all very good questions, including how much is it going to cost us? And Ian, that's what I'm interested in here, because we've already seen energy prices soaring. We're seeing people plunged into energy poverty. We're seeing businesses who can't afford their energy bills as one of the reasons why they're not competitive. So if we do go to 82% renewables by 2030, what sort of a country are we going to look like?
Well, we will be a very impoverished country. There is no way we can afford this. The whole thinking behind it is probably wrong, because no one has ever shown that human emissions drive global warming. We've had cycles of warming and cooling. We're coming out of the peak of the interglacial, and we've been cooling for 4,000 years with warm and cool spikes. So the whole background to
this... But Ian, plenty of scientists I know disagree with you on that, but you are a geologist, so you look at the history of the Earth, not just tens of thousands of years, millions of years. So you're saying we're coming out of a cooling period?
Let me compare myself to other scientists. 97% of all scientists agree with the person or group that funds them. The second thing is that what's written in stone cannot be changed by ideology. And what we know, and we've been able to ascertain this knowledge from many, many sources, is that we have reached the peak of our interglacial. And no legislation is going to change the way the Earth orbits. No legislation is going to change the way the sun works. So I use evidence. Those scientists who criticise me, who are eminently unemployable, except they're frightening us witless, those scientists use ideology. The evidence is always there for everyone to see. The evidence that Jennifer Marohasy has been trying to get from the Bureau of Meteorology is not there for everyone to see, and we pay $1 million a day for this evidence. So I'm quite happy to be criticised on the basis of evidence. If someone wants to criticise me on the way I speak or my horrible bad looks, fire away.
Well, you know what? I'm going to try very hard in the coming week to get a Greens MP, a Teals MP, a climate change scientist or activist to come on and debate you, Ian. We'll see if we can make it happen, and they will get a very fair go indeed.